And with that, Mr. Sessions, you're recognized for your 5 minutes of questioning.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and I want to thank you, for holding this hearing today, because I think public discussion on both sides of this issue and issues is necessary. I want to say to the witnesses that are here today, thank you. Thank you for taking time to be with us. I don't know that we've gotten anything other than accusations that there are two sides that are deeply at war against each other on the high seas, on land, and all across the globe. It's governments against people who produce food. It's men and women who are in a legitimate industry trying to produce energy, trying to keep us out of the cold, trying to keep us cool in the summer. It is men and women who are engaged in trying to use, as our young ranking member said, all of the above. And I want to really thank Ms. Mace for her conversation, because it's hard to find a balance in this. It's hard to find a balance when two sides with hundreds of people on each side, perhaps thousands, are actually so committed to their side that they really cannot see the need for the other. I think it's important that we note that just as of late, we've not recognized the real impact of what a one-sided answer does, whether that be a one-sided answer on what might be called fossil fuels, or all of the above, or a one-sided that might be on the other side, which may be environmentalism. We're looking at one of the largest, literally, group of people in the world, called California, that is in a mature phase of over 25 years, perhaps more, of following environmental activism to do away with the balance. And now they're asking their citizens to not drive, to not use electricity, to not do these things. They have placed arbitrarily California and millions of people in a diminished position. Elderly people, people in hospitals, people who are disabled, people who actually need balance in their life and Americanism at its best. And so I would say to the gentleman from Maryland, thank you for bringing this group together. I am not going to lecture you. That is not what this is about. But I would say that if we're going to fix the problem, we need both sides to back off from their position a little bit, to be able to see where the balance is. But political activism on someone else's pipeline or someone else's backyard is a very difficult argument, in my opinion, that several of you hold. You hold that the right of the public should have a say in these matters. I think you do. I think you do through elected officials. I think you do through policy. I think that you do in certain states that overwhelmingly have adopted those policies. But in states that actually produce the energy, that have the pipelines that beat the stuffings out of driving trucks or trains up and down our freeways, is a best practice, the best way for us to continue a process. The young chairman had a hearing perhaps last year where we talked about pipeline safety. I attended that full hearing. I respected the words that were said by the people who came forth, and I engaged the companies in that behavior that became apparent in that hearing. That's why we have hearings. But those companies recognized they had a problem, and they did things about it. And I think that's the activism that we need, that Mr. Raskin showed. I now engage those companies on their pipeline safety. But I would say to each of you as witnesses, thank you for bringing your story to us. But I would ask that if we're going to heal this country, it's going to take people that do produce energy. It's going to take people who do build pipelines. It is going to take consumers that cannot be put in desperate need for what they're going to get. They need the balance also. And so I want to thank not only our ranking member, the gentlewoman from South Carolina, but I want to thank Mr. Raskin, because when we hear from both sides, then we get a better understanding about the real policies that need to come. And I encourage us, and Mr. Raskin, you know that I deeply believe in a balance. And that balance means that we can have energy and afford it. Lastly, I have a Down syndrome son. I have a son that cannot take care of himself. And he is overwhelmed by changes that take place in our country. But he is an example, and millions of other disabled, intellectual, as well as disabled people, maybe they're veterans, that actually need to make sure that we have the air conditioning on, energy at a price that is affordable, and this means that we can throw down our sword that we have at each other and find that compromise. So please know, just because you come from a state and hold very strong views, a state that produces the energy has an obligation to do that, to take care of all of us. Mr. Raskin, I want to thank you for the balance that's exhibited today. Ms. Mace, thank you for your leadership on this issue, and I thank each of you today. I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you very much, Mr. Sessions, for those very thoughtful comments, and I will definitely have some comments elaborating on some of the things you said when it's my turn. In the meantime,